Okay, welcome to the first, I wasn't going to introduce, I'm going to introduce. Welcome to the first gallery BFA thesis exhibition. We have 4 weeks of these. They are all on the College of Fine Arts YouTube channel. There will be a new exhibition, new art, new gallery talks every week. And we're going to just kick it off with Libby Rega.
Hi, everyone. As introduced, I'm Libby, and my show is called Ebb and Flow. So this concept came to me because I started paying attention to these feelings of burnout that I was having. And I realized that my body was becoming tired at certain points in time. And as I started paying even more attention to that, I realized that it correlated with my menstrual cycle, and specifically the luteal phase, which is towards the end of the menstrual cycle. It's the part where PMS happens. The menstrual cycle has, is full of a bunch of hormones that regulate body function and affect emotion. And, I really feel like I experienced that shift in emotion. And so that was something that was really important for me to try to talk about, was these unseen rhythms of our bodies, or most of our bodies, that really affect daily life. And so the way I went around by creating this was I really focused in on the medium of paper making. And I started off with my big book, Clockwork, which is a idealized version. Yeah, it's hard to see with this camera, but there's some pages up there. It is an idealized version of the menstrual cycle, following the average of 28 days. And I started creating this really methodically. I would create one sheet at a time, and they're repeated throughout. This represents, it's 13 cycles in 1 year. And I started off by doing the insides of these spreads, and then I created another sheet of paper on top. So it's 4 sheets or 4 pages for each of these, and you guys of course are welcome to touch it. I really do implore you to flip through, because there's a lot of stuff that you can find in there. And yeah, let's move over here. So that one is really like the idealized version. And I did create, for the people online who aren't going to be able to get one of these in person, I did create these little resources to explain about the menstrual cycle and the circadian rhythm, which is what men's hormone cycle follows. And I felt the need to talk about the menstrual cycle and the circadian rhythm together, because these fluctuations of the menstrual cycle don't mean too much without the context of the fact that we all live in a world that is really governed by like a circadian rhythm, the 24-hour reset. And I want to function on the level that society asks of me, but I feel like at a lot of times my hormones don't really allow for that. And I really wanted to be able to talk about that here. And so this piece, Fluctuate, is a more personalized piece to how I feel that one of my average cycles goes through, or like how I experience one of my average cycles. And so, we have our definitions of the follicular, luteal, or follicular and luteal phases on this sheet. And so starting here, starting up here, from like day 1 to 5 represents the period. Moving on is the follicular phase, where estrogen rises, energies rise. Then we get up here to ovulation, day 15 or 14, depending on the day, and that's when energy is the highest. Mood is the best, creativity levels are the best as well. And so this piece is the only one that has any mica powder in it. So when you're up close to it, it does have a shimmer to it. And after ovulation, energy levels start to diminish, and we get into the luteal phase. And the real reason why I wanted to create this project in the first place is the diminished energy that I feel before my period, experiencing PMS, and how I feel like I can't function in this world, how it asks of me, and really, the guilt that I feel during that time is that I cannot put my all out there, but I feel so guilty for not being able to do it. But it is a part of myself, and it's a part of a lot of different people, and I feel that it's something we really need to honor and consider. And I would like for everyone else here to consider like your own cycle or the cycles that are around the people that you love. So thank you.
Okay, hello. My name is Julie Zeigler, and this is my BFA show between beginning and becoming. I would say like my main motivator and like concept behind this project was trying to like find a way to use my art to navigate my own identity and like understanding who I am within that. Specifically when it comes to like my past identity and my memory. I'm someone, I struggle a lot with just like recalling specific events. And my family, who I, even extended ones, I spent so much time with them growing up that I have all these stories that I've collected that they tell me what I did. It was so funny, blah, blah, blah. But I don't actually I feel like I don't have that memory myself. So it almost like has led me to feel a disconnect from my past self. And I found that like painting abstractly and almost like having a non-objective goal in my practice has allowed me to kind of explore how that has affected my identity and how it has affected how I view myself in like ways I never really thought of before. So these two paintings right here, Holding / Becoming, it's a diptych that I was really inspired to do after a project in an abstraction painting class with Matteo Galvano. But it was all about like reflecting on your inner life and like how that could be represented. And I did that in another painting that I will show. But I was thinking so much in the past throughout all of these other paintings that like I kind of wanted to start it off kind of in more of a headspace of moving forward. Like I've taken all this time to reflect back and like see how, almost investigate how like my past experiences have affected me. That I wanted to kind of like put that momentum and energy that I'm feeling from these investigations into some paintings. So it is that kind of like creating that space between reflection but also moving forward. These three paintings, they're recollection. They're called Recollection 1 through 3. Like I was talking about the idea of an inner life or your inner story. Each of these paintings was kind of created when I was thinking about a different time in my life. So they have very different like energies to me. Being able to explore and just imagine these concepts in a way I hadn't before. Previously, I had been using a lot of oil paint, but this semester I really went back to water-based mediums in colored pencil, a lot of gouache, a lot of watercolor, and I think I was really attracted to that because of the fluidity of the medium. It reminded me of how I recollect and how I remember things, about how it seems to be always shifting and always changing, and how after as more time passes, more layers appear, and it's harder to see what was there before. So really just thinking about those things as I look back at my life. And then we finally get to this larger piece. This is 12 pieces of 22 by 30 Arches watercolor paper. I was inspired to make this piece I've been talking so much about my identity and looking back at myself. And something that's really important to me about that is I have a twin sister. When I think about myself and my identity, I really cannot separate her from that. Like, it's like we've been with each other for every major life event. Like, we're very, like, I just feel entwined. I think, like, one of my laws of the universe is just things operate in twos. So I kind of went into this painting with that inspiration, kind of like going back to like what I imagine is like the beginning of life, when like it was just two separate things coming from the same origin. And even though they are separate later when they are realized, they still, came from that same like source place. That's really important to me to think about. This painting actually was really satisfying to like see up in the gallery. I wasn't able to work on it like as one piece. I kind of came up with the general composition in my sketchbook to make sure it would work out. But all of the details and the major work was done kind of two at a time, which was the space that I had. And eventually I was able to kind of piece it together and get a better look at it and then continue a little more work. But seeing it up on this wall has really like allowed me to visualize it in a way I didn't think I was going to. Like, I feel like I have been seeing things that, I made it, and I keep seeing things that I didn't consciously put in there, but are reminding me of things in the past. Ultimately, this project has been a lot about exploring the space between what I remember and what I want to become in the future and moving forward. So thank you all so much.
Let's do some questions. And you're welcome to use any of the prompts, that are on the page.
Mine is mainly for Libby, because I was just curious what made you decide, or why were you interested in using paper specifically for this project?
Thank you for asking. I was really interested in using paper because, I really do enjoy the medium. It is something I've really come to love. Not exactly sure why, to be honest, but it really is a laborious process. I should have talked more about how many hours was put into this piece, and specifically like the beating of the paper, or beating of the fibers. So you can only beat like 1 pound at a time. And on average, it took about 3 hours to beat 1 pound. I used about 14 pounds in this entire project. So I was in the paper lab very, very often, like beating the paper in that industrial beater. And then I would be like physically beating the fiber. Like I'd grab little balls of fiber and I'd put it on tile board and I'd physically beat it down. And that's how I created these big pieces. And you can see like the marks of my hand in there. And I really did want to continue using paper making because it allows me to have a really organic and abstract piece that like follows, the rhythms of my body. Like the shape of that came from basically just my reach. That's essentially what that shape is. And then my hand marks are literally in there too. So yeah, thank you. Sully?
I have a question actually for Julia, and that is, I would like for you to elaborate a little more on why you feel that the mediums that you've chosen for this project are best suited to execute kind of your idea and what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, it was kind of a trial and error process. I actually tried out a lot of different mediums because I thought it wouldn't make a difference. I was like, I'm gonna paint what I want to paint, and it won't matter what medium I use. It'll work out. But I found like in a way, like the lack of control that comes from watered down paints, specifically the way I was using them. Like, I don't think every layer got attacked by a spray bottle. And that's something like when you can make a mark without physically touching it with your hand and like let the paint do its own thing, that's almost like, when I was looking at it, it was almost like some parts of some layers of the painting were like in a way representing life events I had no control over. So I'm like trying to emulate that in my like lack of control over the medium. But it's like happy accidents always, you know, like you let a giant pool of watercolor dry and it has these weird ripples and layers in it that you would never be able to paint with a brush, you know? So I think that was the real appeal, is like the mark making and gesture and texture that is within the medium that isn't, that I feel reflects, or at least I see my concept in that. The fluidity of memory, like I was saying, always shifting. Yeah, it was just, nothing felt right until I started doing it this way. Like, it was like throwing like pasta at the wall and like the noodle just falls off. Like, it was just not hitting. But I'm a very like gut feeling person, so when this felt right, I just kind of went full steam ahead.
Erin?
Libby, did you like ever line up the paper that you were doing with the day of your menstrual cycle?
I did try to do that, but all of this was created within the last month, because though I've been thinking of these things for so long, visually my idea keeps changing and this is what I end up with. So I tried to do that.
Yeah.
I tried to do it the best I could, but then it got to the point where I had to fill in holes, you know, because I had to have this like nice transition going in. So yeah, I tried, but I wasn't able to do it all. Yeah.
Someday she has less energy.
Yeah, exactly. It's harder to do them. So, yeah. Anything else?
I was just trying to formulate my question, but I mean, thank you all so much for such good questions. I was just thinking about how, like, for both of your work, like, they speak so nicely together, the two bodies of work, right? Or in so like the colors, the textures, the shapes, the sizes, the scales, you know, you spoke to the body, and like the body scale is what you're both kind of working at, even if it's multiples, right, that make it bigger, right? I guess you sort of addressed this, but maybe if you could speak to it more directly, like the fact that your work in particular are made up of very small pieces, and being able to put it into the gallery and see it in this scale, you know, when was that like aha moment, or was there a moment where you were like, oh my gosh, this is not what I planned, or you know what I mean, like, or you have to shift massively, you know, for both of you. You want to just?
Yeah, well, I feel like out of the two of us, I had to shift a little bit more. I thought my pieces would be smaller than they were, so I didn't realize that I was hoping I wouldn't have to take up this entire wall so Julia could have more space, but obviously everything worked out perfectly fine. So yeah, I really thought I would have like 2/3 of this giant wall here. I feel like,
I can turn it.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm pointing to it, so yeah. Getting it up there was really shocking, honestly, because I put it up there first and I didn't like the way that I had oriented it, so I took it down and put it back up again, which I was very grateful to have the time to do that. Getting to see it not in little piles of paper, you know, because that's about how I could show it off to myself, is just like in little piles. It's been like really incredible to see, and it still doesn't really feel real, to be honest. Yeah, because this has been like a little tiny sketch in my sketchbook for however long, and now it's like a 30-foot piece on the wall, and it's kind of crazy to me that happened.
Thanks.
Yeah, I definitely had to shift stuff around less. I would say just the biggest shock was just like actually seeing the painting up on the wall. Like I worked really hard on it and I liked what I had done, but until I had seen it all up on one piece, I was like, it's not gonna work. But actually like putting it up on the wall, like mapping it out, hopefully getting, like a good display going, like that was when I was like, this feels real. Like I made a big painting and not like 6 or 12 individual ones. So yeah, I would say that was definitely the biggest shift for me. Just like seeing your artwork displayed is really like, sometimes I forget like how different it affects it. So
Yes.
I really appreciate like being able to see it all in the space. So
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you both. Really nice show.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, we're getting started. Friends, you're unmuted.
Okay, hi. My name is Abby,
My name is Jaimon. My name is Kai.
and this is Homebodies. We wanted to make a piece representing like the family home. At least my piece is representing the family home, and talking about like what your day-to-day life might be like in your family home, or like how that might be a little complicated, or be complex, or be a little out of the norm, to say the least. But anything you want to say about it?
About the whole show, yeah. There's a lot of interconnecting pieces.
Well, I think I will go first simply because we're so close to it. So we'll talk about my piece, and my piece is called Intricate Connections. And this is made out of bamboo wood, 100% cotton, and family home weighted objects. So I want to make a piece that's talking a lot about how family homes can be a little bit complicated. So I started from this originating point of the visual string theory, or like how like the string, there could be a string that's invisible connecting two people together. Whether that string be like really, really simple, like where you like pay at a gas station and you move on with your day, you never interact with that person ever again, or you interact with that person every single day of your life, and that is really, really complicated and can be really, really complex and can be really, really happy or really, really upsetting. And it's never really the same in between two people because people don't really always have the same experiences and life experiences. And I want to make a piece about my life experiences and my complicated relationships with people. And I wanted to make weights, and the weights originated from this form of anxiety. So I know a lot of people have anxiety, and I definitely have anxiety, and when I was a kid, I remember running up to my mom and nothing would really like bring this on for me. I'd just be really like be chilling out on the couch with my siblings, and I would feel this huge weight on my chest. And I would run up to my mom and I'd be like, I feel like there's something on my chest and I feel like I can't breathe. And it was anxiety, and my mom, having lived through anxiety, couldn't really do anything for me other than like explain that it was anxiety. So I made that anxiety with these intricate connections. And in the center of all of this is this huge doily that I had named after my grandmother, Delana. Delana is not actually blood related to me, but has been a grandmother to me in every single way possible. She is my dad's stepmother, and she lives right behind me, and she's been my best friend since day one. And a lot of times I will be living my life, and I have crazy, overwhelming things going on, to say the least, and some people near to me know that, those complicated things. And Delana here has always provided this sense of normalcy and safety and a place to like sit and rest, and like always given me that grace and that dignity to like approach these weights of my life one-on-one. And I kind of want to bring the camera into the center, if that's okay, because it has this different experience that I really want. And these are allowed to be touched. I didn't make them in this where you're allowed to touch them, and they're supposed to bump into the viewer. But I gave this like intricate little baby doily representing me, and then my grandmother Delana, and I have this light highlighting it, so it gives this very different experience. This is made with 5.5 crochet, and these are made with micro crochet. So this is done with a crochet needle, probably the size of a needle. And then this is done with your very standard crochet needle. And each one of these have been made very, very specific to the object inside. I don't really want to like disclose what's exactly inside, because I can't, like, who am I defining what is inside of a family home and what is significant to a family home. So I want that to be up to the viewer, and for the viewer to decide what's inside of these objects and relate those objects to things that they might have in their own family home. Thank you. I know. Sorry, I didn't know how to end that, so I'm gonna pass this on to Jaimon.
Hey. So my name is Jaimon, and this is my piece with Laundry Weights. It started out completely different because of course it did. I am an interdisciplinary art student. And I live within the world and space of theater and telling stories. And something that just kept on coming up is how overwhelming the world gets. The place for this, I first got the idea for this show. For the show that then became this little portion of that show in high school. I was, in high school I was a big theater kid. Always am, still am. And so I was out of the house all the time. And one day while I was at rehearsal, my cat died. And I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy, because he didn't even know that he was sick. He didn't even know that he wasn't, he'd come home and he would just be gone. And so I made the first piece within this project, which I currently titled In Memoriam, but it didn't really have a name until a few days ago. I don't know if we can bring it up closer. And the idea behind it is just, you go in and out of life with people, and you come home at the end of the day and your parents there and your brothers are there and your siblings are there and everything's exactly as it is, and then one day it's not, because you're too busy working or whatever, or school, or etc. The list goes on. And after that event, I didn't really stop. And so life continued. We kept on working. And I kept on thinking about how weird it is that we aren't really able to stop. Every day, every day is like this small little portion of time. It's really smaller than you think it is. 4 years later, you realize, oh wow, I'm about to graduate. And you don't get to stop and be like, where did all the people that I knew go? When did I stop talking to my best friend? When did I lose touch with my siblings? You spend all this time working, and at the end of it, you realize that you're just surrounded by mess and laundry. As such is, we have the laundry that is all around. I love clothes, and part of that is, this concept of identity and who are you? Who am I? I've tried to answer this question many times over my 4 years. Because being an interdisciplinary art student, it means that I'm just like, ooh, I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to do this. And you try to tackle all of these different pieces, and you end up not really being sure what you are, except for the fact that you are an artist. You're an artist who creates things. And what you create is, who's to say? So we get to our pieces. And these pieces are really how I've interacted with this concept of work and trying to tell stories. So piece number one I call it this escapism, which is really what performing has felt like. Both performing and the going home after performing. There's this kind of sense that I want to escape from everything, from being myself, from people, and I can do that when I'm on a stage. I can do that when I'm on my phone. I can lock myself into what it is that I'm doing and ignore all the rest. And in the midst of that, laundry goes, things kind of collapse in on yourself, but you can ignore all of that when you're doing nothing or replacing yourself. And we have this next piece, which is what I call the flower dream. Which is this idea that you want your flowers. You gotta get your flowers when you're on stage. And this is true also of the home. You want people to stay. You want your life to be surrounded by the sense of home. But if the foundations are not stable, if they are surrounded by laundry and mess and broken disheveledness, you can't really grow flowers from that. Part of this piece, I have this beaded section, which I think took about 48 hours to do. And it is the view from my home. And with this piece, there is that sense of nostalgia, because at one point you have everything. You have your people, you have strength and stability. I mean, right now there is kind of a stability, but 2 months from now, who knows what's going to be anything. And so you get this idea that, who's to say? Who's to say what'll happen next? And we get to this final piece, which I call cycles, because what I have noticed the most and all of this chaos of work and identity and people is that you will you start and stop. You start and stop. And sometimes you get stuck, but motion doesn't stop. Motion itself is forever. So whether or not you choose to let yourself live in the mess, in the laundry, in the list of tasks and work, that is that, or maybe you just go home and spend time with your people and your cat. Both are viable options. And at the end of the day, you have to choose. And so we end off with this chessboard. You are able to fix your life and your laundry. You're able to play life, the game. You're able to move forward even if you don't know how. Thank you.
It's my turn.
It is.
So we ended off with me. Well, this segment. Hi, I'm Kai, and this is my body of work, The Werewolf in Your Living Room. I think the best place to start with all of this would probably be going back to me being a child and watching the original American Werewolf in London at an age that was probably way too young to be watching that film. But film and storytelling and creativity has been something that has fueled everything for me since I was a kid, going into adulthood, all the changes that happened through all of that. It all brought me comfort. It all made things make sense magically, somehow, that these horror films of these weird, scary creatures somehow made sense. So I got to thinking about that more and more as I got older of, well, I'm still storytelling and I'm in my 20s and I never stopped. So that turned into The Werewolf in Your Living Room. And it stemmed from being somebody that was covert in society and not having to directly explain or say or be who I truly was, to be perceived by people in the same way that I would be normally. I love the allegory of werewolves going through history and going back into contemporary werewolf history and lore, and how they've always been some kind of allegory for a coming of age story or a teenage boy specifically coming into something bigger and crazier. If you look at films like Teen Wolf and again American Werewolf in London, it is this coming of age and that I related to as I got older. And I never realized how much I correlated it with my own experience as being a trans person. So the more I thought about it and the more I dove into it, why could that not be the allegory now of using werewolves as an allegory for the queer experience? So that led into my piece, Hide, which is my little werewolf hide, meant to be touched and manipulated and seen by somebody. It is not something that can be hidden fully anymore. I have a prompt on the wall that reads, "You are encouraged to examine, pet, smell, touch the hide, as long as it's treated with respect. Hides are an important part of werewolves, one of the few things that are able to be kept after a full moon, besides the minor collateral damage. The werewolf could still be walking among you, a small piece of them that they're willing to share. Whether they wanted to or not, that's up to interpretation. Respect the hide, treat as if it were your own." I wanted to try to build this lore that I've been trying to understand for myself. of who am I, what am I willing to share, and what is okay to share out. And it really started becoming more and more and more evident for me that it was just easier to use this lore building to understand myself in a way that I hadn't been able to before. And the allegory just came easily and so normally for myself that it just kept fueling and fueling and fueling more ideas, which is where we get to the Night Archive in Memoriam, which stems from the what kills a werewolf is a silver bullet, but how keeping an archive of these things that could have or should have or would have done something terrible. So I went through and I kind of used my own personal experience of realizing I would have never realized that I was a queer person if the Pulse nightclub shooting never happened. I had grown up in a small town, I've grown up in the church, it was never talked about. And then I kept looking into this thing that had happened that I've seen on the news, and I was like, why is that bad? Why were these people killed for loving someone? And then it made me realize more of, oh, this is how I feel. And it fed into this, realization. And it came to me as like, I asked a bunch of other people, like, what are things that made you realize something about yourself that like probably for other people wouldn't have? So I went through and I interviewed a bunch of people older than me, younger than me, and used different years that were evident or important to them in specifically their queer experience. And it's just crazy hearing the stories of people it was such a scary thing in the moment, but then they realize they come back stronger from it. So I wanted to try to have a archive of memory and memoriam to these things that otherwise would have been deadly or would have been something that you would never know how to deal with otherwise. As for the body of work in totality, I'm really happy with how it looks in the gallery. I am excited to develop more on this later. I am a lore building person, so this will eventually probably become a lot more than what it is. Thank you.
Okay, folks, questions?
Abby, how was the installation process for your piece?
The installation process did take me all of spring break. So I did make the wooden piece that we see on the top in the actual gallery, because I made it specific for this space because I wanted to attach it to these hooks up to the ceiling. So this whole piece was made for this gallery specifically. And I kind of it was a lot of getting up and down the ladders. Not gonna lie, it was just being up on a ladder, seeing if I liked it there, lowering and heightening things, a lot of cutting thread. One thing that is a surprise when it came to installation is I had these extra strings from hanging the Delana piece, and I actually really, really liked them. So I ended up making it to the very end of it. And I've heard from my previous artist talk that I wanted to make more of these weighted sculptures. A lot of health issues have stopped me from that. So I like that this was a good solution to that because I was really disappointed that I wasn't able to do more.
Jaimon, did you own all of those scarves already?
Yes, I did own all of these scars. No scars were purchased for the making of this exhibition.
All of the scarves?
No. The other half of my collection is at home in New Hampshire.
I have a question for you as well. What was your process in sourcing your material?
Well, these pieces of wood are from a shelf that broke down at the start of the year, and you've been using them to prop up my bed so I'd have more storage space. And since I'm in the process of packing down my room, I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna build the shelf up again, so I can just use it for the pieces. In terms of all other materials, obviously I had a lot of beads left over from the beading project for the view from home. So I used that for the escapism piece. I have a lot of string already at home. I took the process of making and used those pieces in these pieces. So like whenever I would like have an energy drink, I would use the metal from that to then collage into those two pieces. This goes the same like in terms of paper. Sometimes I'd use paper for like my palettes, and or bubble wrap in the flower dream. I would use that, and then I would cut them up and apply them. The actual the flower dream is on top of this. I have this paper book that I made out of old books, where it's just like all of these pages stuck together and glued together, and I used one of those pages as the back for the flower dream. And then we had some dried flowers because my roommate had gotten flowers and left them out to die, and I took them and I was like, I need these. Yeah.
I will ask the question for the class. If you wouldn't mind just each talking a little bit about how the work shifted for you or surprised you, or what happened once you brought it into the gallery space.
Oh, yeah. My piece was originally supposed to be a lot larger. Like I said, health issues and like family issues, my own personal issues kind of like sized that down for me. And then once I was in the actual gallery, it made more sense for it to be smaller. And like the shape of it became very organic, and it became very much like, I feel like it's very much like built for the space, and like I built it in the space, and all of the sizing and all of the heights are built for the space, and like how it will interact with certain people. And I wanted it to like, I don't know, I'm just like, it's probably going to change every single time I install it, but it's always going to be different every single time I install.
Yeah, I mean, I've been just planning it was its own like whole ordeal of trying to like debate where in the gallery things were gonna go, how things were gonna fit in. But I love my little cubby. I like the little corner. I don't know. I just really enjoy how it came together. There's just really not much else I could say. I just really am happy with how it all looks in the gallery, all installed.
Nice. Well, I guess I kind of talked a little bit about it, but since I joined this class this semester, I didn't have last semester to plan this out, and so I went through a number of drafts, and each one was making it more manageable. And so this is the final draft of the most manageable version of this project.
And is this the first exhibition that you've ever sort of installed?
No.
Besides,
No.
okay.
I was actually in the undergraduate exhibition my first year.
Okay.
I had this tape mural that I had done.
Okay.
I was about that long, and it was a piece that I had done 2 years prior for this summer camp that I went to. So, yeah.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, we got one more gallery to go to. Mute.
Hello. Hi, I'm Lydia Branstiter. My name is Laura Kamper. And we did a joint exhibition called Too Silly. Ta-da! Our exhibition is found themed, and we're excited to show you. Lydia's gonna go first. So I would like to start off by reading my my thesis statement that I have heavily edited because my previous thesis statements did not really align with what the show has become now. So here we go. In Am I the Clown? Identity and performance behaviors are explored through a series of porcelain and mixed media sculptures. The intention is to incite self-reflection regarding our ability to communicate emotions and question our collective instinct to hide negative affect from others. Porcelain, known for its durability and stark white surface, is used to achieve a wide range of pastels and watercolor-like surface application. Ready-made objects are frequently incorporated, which provides solid grounding for the ethereal feel the porcelain emanates. The sculptures are a piece of a greater discussion about the pain we pass to others by being ingenuine, how being ingenuine prevents true identity from thriving, and the emotions that occur when we deem our performances as inadequate. So when I first started making my pieces, my basic concept was clowns, just blanket clowns. I really what drew me to clowns was the idea of like the makeup, like being fake. It was a very literal, like you're putting on a performance, you are being someone else, which was what equal to what I was trying to focus on is like masking, for example. And then as I started making more pieces, I started going more towards things like performance and like shared sadness. So for like my water bells, for example, in those bells, they do have little holes. So as the water goes through them, the eyes do have holes in them so that the water goes through, and it is meant to have it's meant to be like shared sadness, you know. So, and then for the mirror, it went on more towards like the Hollywood. You're getting ready for a performance, lights. You're putting on your makeup. It's the backstage. You're hyping yourself up. You know, like, okay, I gotta be happy today. You know, people gotta know I'm okay, and they don't gotta worry about me. And that is something that I know I've struggled with a lot of my life. I've always been a very anxious person. I know a lot of people here have struggled with that as well. I always had like a big personality and was always told I was too much. And I took that very, very personally. And I used that, and my anxiety took that and went to the extreme. And I lost a lot of time in trying to quiet myself and quiet who I was, because I felt if I was who like I was, then people would be annoyed. Like my number one fear was that I would be annoying. So my main inspiration is actually a factory in Spain, Leadra, and they make a lot of different things, but sculptures. They're known for their clown sculptures. And my grandmother, she actually has two. And in going to her house, she always had these two clown sculptures in her dining room. And I was always look at them, and I was always fascinated by them. And so I think subconsciously, this kind of came to me. I don't know. I think it was fate. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm Laura. You guys know that. I wrote everything down, so if you guys don't mind that, I first just want to thank all of you guys for being with me on this journey. I know that we've all worked really hard, and I know that everyone is still working really hard, and so I just want to make sure to thank you guys and just this cohort of people that have been a huge part of this experience for me. So thank you guys all, and I just want to start by saying that my work is inspired by my inner child and reaching for it and missing it. And my grandmother taught me that it doesn't ever go away. You keep it forever, and you need to nurture it and take care of your inner child and protect it. So that is why I created my body work. We can start over here with my chess set. So the reason that I like to create chess sets is because I believe that the act of play is very important, and as an adult, I want to continue playing, and I think that chess is a very strategic game. I think that throughout life, we face a lot of challenges and a lot of twists and turns, and I think that chess embodies that experience very well. It's very complicated, and every decision that you make is extremely important. So, but it's important to also stay whimsical, and it's important to always play. And so that is why I enjoy creating chess sets. This one, of course, is clown themed. I love clowns. And so each of these were created from a mold that I made. I threw each piece individually, and then I made a large mold of each piece. And then I created them, and I used stoneware and underglaze. And then over here, I have another chess set. These pieces were created using thrifted fabrics.
I think I can scoop back and scoop it.
It's designed kind of to play out in the yard. But this was designed using all thrifted fabrics, and the beads I actually used are from my childhood. All of the beads were given to me by, all the beads were gifted to me by my grandmother, who still had held on to them for me, which meant a lot to me because a lot of my childhood toys are no longer with me. So I have all the beads that I had when I was a kid, and that is why this is called Beadland. And this one is called Carmelius Land, because when I was creating them, when I was creating them, I was kind of playing with them like they were little dollies, and I named one of them Carmelius, and he's the prince. So. Over here I have kazoos. I started making music when I was a kid. I've always played with instruments, and so I wanted to make pieces that create music, and they are functional. I just don't have the kazoo diaphragm in there to play them because I wanted the art to speak for itself. I didn't want any distractions in the way. Over here I have, over here I have my knife. My favorite chess piece is the knight, just because I like ponies. So this is made from earthenware, myolica, and I used cobalt. And then I thrifted the lampshade, and I sewed the lace on, which I also thrifted, and then I painted it to match the cobalt. So that's how I made that. And then over here, sorry. Sorry guys, I know I'm making everyone so hard. When I was a kid, I also really loved making balloon animals, and it was something that I had stopped doing for many years, and then I was like, why did I stop doing that? This is awesome. So I was inspired by just my love for balloon animals. I love giraffes, they're my favorite animal, and so I made a giraffe and a poodle, and I call them party animals. And last but not least, my most important thing over here, which I have a lot to say about, which I actually will read my notes for because this is information. So this is my party cannon. I was inspired by My Little Pony. Pinkie Pie has a party cannon, and I always wanted one. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna build one. So here's that. The details on this were inspired by a technique called rose mauling, which is a Norwegian folk art style. It originated in the 1700s, and it emphasizes painting ornate, bright colors and flowers. All of these elements are very important to me in my practice because I love fine detail and ornateness, and obviously color. This piece was made of earthenware and hardware that I got at the hardware store, and I decorated it with underglaze. And would you guys like to see it explode? I just want to warn everyone, it is quite loud, and you will see like an explosion, but it's not dangerous. No one's gonna get hurt. It's just gonna look a little bit like scary, but also really awesome. I have to do some assembly really quick, so this might take a while. Patient with me.
Laura, this is so exciting.
I will give you guys a warning. It's gonna take like a little like bit. It's gonna take like 10 seconds. I know this is like anticipation. All right, guys, are you ready?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Something is wrong.
No, it's okay.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry if I scared anybody. So, Erin?
Lydia, could you talk more about this piece in the corner?
Absolutely. So that came to me on a whim. I love making that. In high school, I took like 3 years of jewelry making. My high school had the privilege of having a jewelry making class. So I worked with like metal and fine tuning metal and stuff like that before, and I was really itching to get something like that together and do something like that again. So I decided to do this chandelier. The idea is that the red and blue things are these like deflated balloons, and there are 66 of them, and I kind of based it off of like Route 66 and how it used to be like awesome and colorful and like populated and and popular, and then now it like you go there and you just drive through ghost towns. It's just desolate. You like see all these buildings and they're all just broken and they're all just broken and, you know, like some of these towns, they're just dead and there's like 2 people living in them and stuff. So, so it's sort of like harkening back to how you have like these glorious plans, or you have like the glory days, but then they slowly, like a balloon, like deflate over time, and they get older and they're replaced by new things. And so you just pile them, or they sit there and they just hang around. So, yeah.
Also,
I'm curious about how you guys handle installation. I think it's really interesting that you didn't like separate the space off from each other. Was there any rhyme or reason, or did you guys just bring stuff into the space and like feel it out? I just
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened.
So from the start, Lauren and I wanted our stuff to be like intermixed.
Mhm.
Like we did not want like you get one half and you get one half.
Yeah, we felt that our work really complemented each other, so we thought that like sharing the space versus like separating it off would just be inappropriate. It's more appropriate this way. But installation, oh my goodness, it was a nightmare. We were biting the wire, like we were working until the morning. We were working so hard. We worked so hard just getting everything together. I mean, the night before, Lydia was spending hours making these beautiful cards. So yeah, we were working really hard. So we were in here early in the morning, just making sure all the details were right, and it was complicated, but it paid off really well.
We didn't really have a plan, like sorry, plan, if that makes sense. Like this piece is going here, this piece is going here. I think the most I had mapped out was, okay, here are the outlets, because we had lamps. And so we were like, okay, well, here's an outlet, so we can, you know, at least have that there. It was a generalized area, so we could like pay attention to that. But other than that, like, I think the only thing that was like semi-solid was maybe my mirror going on that wall.
That's just
because
where
it was like it was just like the perfect.
Can we
It
show
was just the perfect
mirror?
space. It was just perfect. So yeah, that was like the only thing. So we just we're very like fly by the seat of our pants people. So you're just like, okay, well, we'll get the space and then we'll just move stuff around and see. So yeah, that's how that happened.
I didn't mention this before, but my chess sets are like welcome to touch. Like, you may, if you want.
Can you talk about the tent piece?
Yeah, of course. So for the tents, it is modeled after, okay, I don't know if I say this right, the Troika dolls. Fun fact, the also known as Russian nesting dolls, but actually the first Russian nesting doll was actually Japanese. Did you know that? That was really interesting. Anyway, so the idea is that so I took inspiration from Shrek, where he says onions have layers. So I was thinking, okay, well, you have layers to yourself, obviously. So, you know, you have this very like hard exterior that like slowly gets worn down with time, and then you have like this innocence and this bright like true self in this there's a little light, but there's this little guy in here. But yeah, there's a little guy in here. And there's also a light in here. So they all like go and they go within each other and they all have lids. So, yeah, it's just layers. It's just layers. It's just, yeah.
Was one big surprise in, kind of getting into the gallery space with the work and negotiating things?
Just like making it here, like just reaching the end.
And I didn't get any parking tickets.
No parking. I don't know. I think that like when it was finally like said and done, it was just kind of like, wow, like it's over. You guys will feel this way soon.
Yeah. Oh, it's so nice. It's so nice.
But I don't know if we like faced really a lot of like surprises necessarily. I guess.
10, no 10.
So I have there was like one issue that we ran into. I have this like parachute piece that was like kind of like a community collaborative piece where I had, it's quite large. It's probably bigger than the room, very large parachute. And I had invited anyone that like passed by to come. I had spray paint, regular paint, and like paint markers, and it is like a piece about just like bringing the community together, and like you need everyone to like make it go up and set up like on it. And obviously I was inspired by like playing with the parachute when you're a kid, and that's something that like you don't really get to do as an adult, so I bought a very large one. I was gonna try to hang it like on the side, but there's just no possible way, and it was kind of stinky because but, yeah, you guys can see it in our like poster. We did like pictures with it. So.
Well, any other burning questions? Did you leave in the confetti?
Am I leaving it? No, but I will make more. And if you guys want to take some, I did like a little like stamp on each one. I don't know. But you guys don't have to do it. That's crazy. I don't know.
I love this.
Thank you so much for public watching, and make sure you tune in next week at the same time. We'll be back with all new shows, and yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.